Yes, I am hosting in Gank City at level 133, or I did for at least an hour, and then I killed Aldrich because I kind of found it quite boring. But I'll get into more into why that is later. First of all, to make a few comparisons between hosting in Gank City and invading in Gank City, thing number one that stays exactly the same is the fact that lag is really annoying to deal with. Thing number two that stays exactly the same is that AFK people are boring, and I will just kill them immediately without mercy because they're just kind of wasting my time. I guess I could have waited a few more seconds and let that guy come back to his controller, but sorry, as a tryhard, if I can see an opportunity to kill you, I'm going to take it. As far as fighting multiple people goes, it's interesting because on the one hand, hosting affords you the advantages of twice the Estus and 30% more HP, which are pretty sizable advantages. 30% more HP means they have to do a lot more burst damage to you to kill you, and twice the Estus obviously just means that you're going to have double the healing of anyone else involved. But on the other hand, unlike when you're fighting a gank squad of 3 people in Gank City, when you're invading, you are never going to get backup while you're hosting. At least not assuming you aren't, putting Way of Blue on or whatever. On the bright side, your opponents do have friendly fire, so they can just randomly kill each other sometimes. That would never ever happen if you were invading and fighting a gank squad because they don't have friendly fire, obviously. But yeah, I would say overall, fighting multiple people is significantly more winnable, like straight up fighting multiple people, simply because of, first of all, the advantages that you are afforded, double the Estus and 30% more HP, but then also just the fact that they have friendly fire and there's no ability to coordinate via mic, because you can't really pick your invader teammates, it's just random luck. Also, something that needs to be pointed out is that the average invader is going to die really, really fast in a 1v1. You know how some YouTubers do that thing where they look how long the host survived when he was alone, and it's like 5 seconds or whatever, 10 seconds or whatever, you get my point, right? Most average invaders are about as talented as your average host, so they are not going to survive too much longer than your average host would in that situation. Especially not against a very aggressive, high damage build like Herald and Hand Axe. Just going to get nuked really, really quickly. This guy had the right idea. He survived long enough to get a friend, because that is what you should do against Gank City hosts. Regardless of whether they're ganking or not, teaming up on them is your best route to victory. And I'm a decent enough player that I really shouldn't lose in a 1v1, simply because I have 30% more HP and double the Estus. And if 2 good players fight each other and one has 30% more HP and double the Estus, then guess who's going to win that encounter 9 times out of 10. The advantages afforded by hosting are just too much. Anyway, this guy had the right idea. He waited for a friend, but unfortunately his friend let him down, and yeah, 2v1 spanked. But can he do a 3v1? Well, we'll find out right now. So yeah, considering that your odds of beating someone who is equally talented as you or better than you when it's a 1v1 where they have 30% more HP and double the Estus are pretty low, just team up on them if you want to win at least. That's your best chance of winning. Don't act like a cocky ass if it requires you teaming up on your opponent to beat them. But at the same time, if you're playing to win, which is not an unreasonable thing to play for, then it'll probably get you there. Let's see, what else did I want to say? Oh yeah, fighting straight up 3v1s is a lot more doable than fighting straight up 3 gankers when you're the invader, because you have all the host advantages when you're the host. you're fighting another person who does have the host advantages when you're in the invader. And then on top of all that, there's the big difference of friendly fire versus no friendly fire. So spanking a 3v1, not really that difficult to do, to be entirely frank. Unless one of your opponents is good. And then you're in trouble because, you know, obviously then it's one good opponent against, with maybe two brain-dead opponents against one other good player. So anyway, just an interesting perspective. This is not to say that, like, you're never gonna die if you host in Gank City. Here I get knocked off the ledge by the Poison Astora and then killed by poison, and then Perry King McDarkhand throws poop at my corpse. And this is also not to say that it's always going to be a walk in the park. You get 3 Eldritch Faithfuls, and you could be in some real trouble unless 2 of them jump off the ledge and just fucking kill themselves for you. But anyway, yeah, I would say still on average fighting a 3v1 is significantly easier when you are hosting. Another thing that interested me upon interacting with the population of regular Gank City invaders for the day was, I suppose, the adaptations they made, their attitudes, basically just the way that they played the game. It was an interesting look into Gank City invaders, I guess. Your average Gank City invader. Yeah, so here are 2 of our starring members. The guy who I just killed is Dragon Slayer, or something that his PSN is. I don't know, don't send him hate mail or anything. He invaded me a whole lot the night that I did this. And then this guy, he's whipping my ass pretty good. I have always been terrible against the Black Knight sword, because I play too aggressively against it, and considering that it is a great sword with perseverance, it is a pain in the ass to deal with. So he's kicking my ass pretty good. I'm only staying in it through my host advantages and Estus ring fueled chugs. But then I kind of find my opening, I guess is the best way to say it. Finally start getting in the rhythm of the fight and manage to finish him off. However, instead of taking the loss like most invaders would, he returns home, which is kind of disheartening. Some players, actually, upon getting killed by me once, they made the adaptation of just giving up entirely. They returned home whenever they invaded my world, which was also kind of sad, because, like, Christ, I'm a solo host. A gank squad is going to be a lot harder on you. But anyway, here is one of the first of my invasions against Mr. Dragon Slayer. It's actually a replay of a clip from earlier, but I figured I would point out who he was. He invaded me a whole lot, frankly, got his ass whipped quite a lot. He seemed like a newer invader, but, like, I mean, he was giving it a shot. He was doing his best. I honestly respect him a whole lot more than the guy who DC'd on me. Even though Dragon Slayer, he realized his limitations. He's realized he was not going to beat me in a straight-up 1v1, so he went to try and force me off a ledge. And I honestly respect that. I think Dark Souls is a lot about adapting and trying to find ways to overcome that which initially seems impossible to overcome. So he picked his positioning wrong the first time he tried to force me off a ledge, but he reevaluated his choice. He made an adaptation and went to a ledge where it would be guaranteed death if he managed to force me off. And I respect that, seriously. Some people regard Force as cheese. It's definitely a meme, thanks to Fighter PL. But at the end of the day, it's a really efficient way to kill a host. And you gotta respect someone who, A, realizes their own limitations, and B, tries to make an adaptation to overcome those limitations. But at the end of the day, it's also going to be pretty hilarious when he has his game plan go terribly awry, which is about to happen in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Anyway, GG's Dragon Slayer. Just found that amusing. Sorry. Alright, so this last clip is going to serve as sort of a background clip for me to talk about why I will not be hosting at Gank City anymore. And the reason why I will not be hosting at Gank City anymore is kind of threefold. Also, daily reminder that casters are really annoying, basically no matter where you fight them. Yeah, so reason number one is just having to clear the PvE every time. I have relatively limited time to play Dark Souls nowadays. I don't really want to waste it clearing the PvE. I don't care if it takes 2 minutes to do. I don't care if Silver Knights die in one R1 jump attack. It feels like an artificial delay between fights, and to be entirely honest, I am very much not about delaying fights nowadays in Dark Souls. Sometimes I'll even adopt like really dumb tactics against gang squads where I just engage a 3v1 because, I'm not patient enough to wait for backup like an optimal player would. So, I don't know. I am, I guess, just too impatient to host in Gang City. Clearing the PvE every single time I die is just a pain in the ass that I don't really want to deal with. Anyway, GG's Amish, by the way. Here's reason number two. Reason number two is similarly related to patience. When you're waiting around for people to invade while you're hosting in Gank City, it feels like unproductive waiting. I couldn't really place what I disliked about it so much at first, but eventually I realized that what I really didn't like about waiting for people to invade in Gank City is that it feels like it's just like waiting with no purpose, I guess. When you're waiting for backup to come help you against a gank squad, it feels like the waiting is actively making your efforts to win, your odds of winning. It feels like the waiting is making that stronger, give you better odds and all that. When you're waiting in Gank City for people to invade, it's just like, oh, well, I guess I just wait for fights now. I don't know. It's the difference between productive waiting and pointless random waiting that you just kind of have to do. And then reason three is largely to do with the demographic of Gank City invaders. Most of them are, as I have covered, quite bad. I have a lot of clips of me obliterating invaders before they could even reach an Estus. And frankly, I'm not super interested in fighting people who I can obliterate before they even reach an Estus. At least not in a 1v1. To be entirely honest, people who I can obliterate in a 1v1 that quickly, go summon phantoms. Go host. Fight me then. You need the help. Not even to say that I'm like that great at the game. But like the fact is that with the advantages I have and your current skill level, you need some help to kill a player like me. So go summon phantoms, and then it will be more interesting, because even bad players are hard to kill when there are phantoms involved. All this is not to say that you should stop hosting in Gank City if you find it fun. I'm just kind of explaining why I don't. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and above all else, keep it silly, y'all.